What's Happening Dracut is sponsored by BGI Group, LLC.
Today is Saturday, April 27th, 2024, and this is the 65th episode of What's Happening Dracut. Welcome to the show, folks, and do we have a blockbuster show for you today, 1 week out from the town elections here in Dracut. You are watching us live from our overly ostentatious studios here, located on Mill Street in Dracut, Massachusetts. And we are glad to be here at Dracut Access Television. We want you to join us in live by joining us either on Facebook or on live streaming on DracutTV.org, or naturally where you are maybe watching right now on Channel 8. We are absolutely live. I'm your host, John Zimini, and along with me today is our very, very astute co-hosts who join us all the time, and they are here today with a lot of stuff to talk about and give a lot of opinions. But first, I'm going to introduce you to the Teflon Dawn of Dracut Access Television and DATV and Dracut, Massachusetts. It is none other than the famous basketball coach and referee of Dracut, Massachusetts. Here he is, Gordy Scott. Welcome, Gordy.
Hey, how's everyone today?
Do you think I'm a little caffeinated up?
You are definitely caffeinated up, and you have reason to be with this show. All the bombs that are going to be dropped today.
Woo!
We are going to get some phone calls and
my
some
God.
comments, I think, on the page today.
How
so
many
be
times are we going to be threatened to be sued today?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yep, that's the question.
That's the question. But remember one thing, Gordy. We don't bring anything out until we can prove that we're telling
That's
the truth.
right.
They want to tell everybody that we're lying and we make stuff up. But as the manager says in town, we make stuff up on social media. No, we don't make stuff up. I have the backup to it. Trust me.
Right.
My wife says to me before I leave the house, please don't get us sued. We're not getting sued. Don't worry. We have good lawyers anyways, right?
Yeah.
And also in the house tonight is the resident architect of Dracut, Massachusetts, who has more extensive experience with zoning issues and bylaws and all that boring crap. Stuff. Right? Here we go. He's the guy who can't get on any boards because he thinks on his own, folks. Thinks on his own. Phil Thibault. Thibault.
Philly
Thibault. I did that on purpose, Phil. How's it going,
Oh,
Phil?
everything is just wonderful. It's always sunny in Dracut.
Are you excited for today's show?
I am. We have some stuff that's new, some stuff that's old.
Yep.
All interesting.
Yeah, we're
Some
going to
stuff
have
that's silver and some stuff that's gold.
There we go. It's all gold. It's all gold.
You're right. It's all gold. For some reason, I'm not getting on my phone the live feed. You got
We
it?
are
Okay,
live.
So
I
we're
have-
good. We're live on Facebook live right now. With us tonight, we have a couple of candidates for school committee, which we're going to get into in just a minute. We have Rebecca Duda here today.
Hi, John.
How are you, Rebecca?
Excellent, thanks.
You're not only a school committee person, which we'll get into when we get into the discussion overall, but you also have your own show on Dracut Access
I
Television.
do. I have a couple shows.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I have one that's called Discovering Dracut, where I interview people and talk about the town's history and things like that. And the other one is Catholic Conversations.
Which are great stuff.
Yeah, well-
we don't have enough about Catholic conversations.
Yeah.
We don't have enough Christian conversations out there, right?
Yes, exactly,
So
yeah.
it's good that you're bringing that stuff. So we'll get to you in a minute. You're running for re-election, and we have Rob Shepard in the house. Rob Shepard is another guy. He's an engineer who has a plethora of information about buildings and budgets and the whole 9 yard, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, thanks for having me.
Good to have you again.
We have a new time today, right? We're at 11 o'clock. I'm wondering if after the show, is this going to be considered the Breakfast Club? Are we Saturday?
I like that.
So
That's not a bad idea, the Breakfast Club. That we can always do that. Today we want to welcome, if you saw the opening, in the beginning of the opening, we have a sponsor for the show.
Yes.
Nobody has had the guts to sponsor us, let's say, for many, many years. But the bottom line is we have one, and it's now we want to welcome BGI Group, LLC, and we are so happy to have them with us, and hopefully we'll have a long and illustrious future with them. Later on in the show, we're going to have Josh Taylor on, who happens to own BGI, by the way, but he has seen fit that he wants to become a sponsor here, and we welcome him aboard. But before we get into all of that stuff, we're going to have Gordy Scott tell you a little bit about YouTube and Dracut Access Television, as well as what's happening Dracut.
Yeah, so for all our fans out there, if you want to join us on the conversation, you can call us at 978-957-4243 live, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. We do have a jam-packed show today, so I don't know how much time we'll have for calls, but if you want to join us too, also on DracutTV.org, you can watch us live there, live streaming. We're on Facebook. Many of you watch us on Facebook. We get about 30 viewers, and then after the show, we'll post in a few days. You can watch us on YouTube from your smart TV. You can just type in what's happening Dracut, and we'll pop right up.
That's awesome.
Keep up with what's going on in Dracut.
That's awesome. And for all of you followers that are out there, if you want to join in, as Gordy just said, 978-957-4243. We welcome your calls, although we're going to try to cut you short today because we have a lot to put in here. But if you want to comment and make a quick comment, we'll welcome you in. But before we do that, let's have the weather from our resident weatherman of Mill City Weather, Sean Kelly. Take it away, Sean.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. And here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Just wanted to start off with this because of the weather that we've been having. So we do have the high pressure that's finally building in the middle part of the country, and that is expected to move into our neck of the woods as we head into next week. So warmer weather is definitely on the way. Starting off with tonight, transfer some showers late. It was a nice day overall as we had high temperatures in the mid-60s. As we head into tonight, temps are going to drop back down into the mid to upper 40s. Winds not too bad, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then as we head into Sunday, not a washout. There is a transfer, a few showers in the morning hours, clearing up as we head through the day. Mostly cloudy conditions for the second part of the day, but we should get into some sunshine to close out Sunday afternoon. Winds not too bad again, 5 to 10 miles an hour coming out of the southwest. Will be 70 degrees though, some locations in the low 70s here inside the Merrimack Valley. Then as we head into Sunday night, temps are going to drop back down into the 50s, so about average for an overnight low temperature, partly cloudy conditions. Winds not too bad, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Here's a look at your exclusive 8-day forecast. So as we head into Tuesday of next week, chance for a few thunderstorms, 73 degrees for high temp. Wednesday approaching the upper 70s, highs near 80 degrees. As we close out Wednesday, some locations might be in the low 80s. As we enter Thursday and Friday, still a little bit unsettled as we have high temps in the upper 60s. And then as we head into next week, forecast is favorable for some sunshine, especially for Saturday and Sunday.
60.
And that's it for now, everyone.
Saturday.
Back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, thank you, Sean. We've missed you over the last couple of weeks. So Sean's work hours are a little bit different now, and because we switched our day to Saturday instead of a Wednesday night, because it's more convenient for us to be able to produce the show and put everybody together, right? So, but he's now adjusted, and we'll have his weather forecast going forward. Did you notice the weather for Election Day, Philip? 66 and sunny?
Well, let's hope that it allows people to feel like they can go out and vote.
Right. But we also have early voting. Why don't we have you talk about the early voting? Can we pull up the computer?
So for those of you that won't be around next weekend and you're enjoying the weekend away, we do have early voting in Dracut. You go to the town hall, 62 Arlington Street, and you can see here on the screen, these are the dates and times. So today, you can actually go from 9 to 3, Monday, 9 to 4, Tuesday, The town hall is open late, so it's 9 to 6:30, Wednesday 9 to 4, and Thursday also 9 to 4.
And I believe that today is the last day to register to vote if you are not registered. So if you're out there and you say, I haven't voted, but this, after watching what's happening Dracut today, that you're going to want to go vote. Because if you ever heard of the politicians being in your pocket, today's the day you're going to find out how they are. So make sure that you get down there and register to vote. So with us today is our special guests, Rebecca Duda from the Dracut School Committee and Rob Shepard, also from the Dracut School Committee. They are running for re-election and they are unopposed, which is a testament to what people are thinking that you're doing on the boards. Welcome you both. Welcome there, Rebecca. How are you today?
I'm excellent, John. How are you?
I'm just fantastic.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Every time
Thank you.
people keep asking me, when are you going to bring Rebecca back on? She's good for the conversations other than schools, which is true.
Yeah, well.
Which is true. And so isn't Rob. But
Yeah, well, and I just want to make sure everyone knows, I have my basketball. Anyone who knows me knows I always have a lapel pin. So I have basketball on tonight.
Oh,
'cause
thank you.
Game
That's-
3 of the Celtics tonight.
Yes.
well,
So-
aren't the Bruins on too?
yeah, the Bruins too,
Game
yeah.
four.
That's what I'll be doing. I'll be watching the Bruins. My wife and I will be fighting over the clicker because she's the basketball player and I'm the hockey guy. So we'll be fighting over that. Rob, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing great, John. Thanks
Good.
for
So
having me.
we have a lot to talk about the schools, but first I wanted to have you both say a couple things about your candidacy and ask the people for your vote and for their vote, and then at the end we'll do the same thing again. So we'll start with the young lady, as chivalry is not dead with me,
All right.
and we'll start with you. So go ahead, Rebecca.
Thanks, John. Well, I've been on the school committee now. I'm seeking re-election. I've been on for one term. It's been my great pleasure to serve the families of Dracut. I became interested in running for school committee 3 years ago because there was an opening, and I enjoy being on different boards and serving the community. And anyone who knows me, I've been a teacher now in town. I had been a teacher in town for 12 years at the middle school, so I am familiar with the Dracut Public Schools. I work in the Lowell Public Schools for the past 7 years as an administrator. I still teach. I still love teaching. I'm over at UMass Lowell, and sometimes I have former students show up and sign up for my class, so that's that's nice. So I'm a professional educator, and I think I bring a set of skills that's unique to the school department. You know, I've seen the role as teacher, administrator, and now as the school committee. And you know, you don't work as an individual, you work as a board. So, you know, we have a good collegial relationship with the others on the board, and we've been able to keep the school department stable. You know, we've had leadership. You know, a lot of school districts have turnover. We've been able to have Mr. Stone here now for several years, and rebuilding back some of the things that we've lost in previous years slowly. You know, but it's good work, it's important work, and I look forward to continuing it for another 3 years. So I humbly ask for your vote on May 4th, or during early voting, as you just pointed out.
Exactly. Rob Shepard.
Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
Rob. How's
Yes.
it going?
It's going well.
Your family was a little bit under the weather this week, and
Yes.
I feel you. I feel your pain.
Yes.
My grandchildren go through the same thing. But go ahead, introduce yourself, tell people what you're all about.
Sure. My name's Rob Shepard. I'm running for school committee. I was born and raised in Dracut, right on Long Pond. My family and I, I'm raising 2 little ones right now in town in the Campbell School District. So for me, I got involved in this earlier on. I ran in 2022. I came in 3rd place, but then I didn't leave Dracut and didn't leave the local government. I jumped right back in and was on the Open Space Committee, Conservation Commission, and the Community Preservation Committee. And then recently there was a vacant seat that I was appointed to, unanimously, as a matter of fact, which they said that I'm very focused on education, getting results. And that's a big thing within engineering. We, as engineers, it's our nature to want to help and to improve our community, and that's what I'm about. I'm looking forward to staying focused on education, planning for the future of our town, and recently was appointed to the Permanent Building Committee for the Campbell School project that's happening. So I'm very vested in our town, and I'm looking forward to continuing to support our town and our schools as we move forward. A lot of people thought that I was going to be really hard on our superintendent, but there's a way to have accountability and there's a way to work with our management and still have that accountability. And I feel as though I have a good relationship with the superintendent now and my fellow board members, which has been really helpful for us to move forward. And I humbly ask for your vote on May 4th.
So, folks, Rob's appointment was a good one, and I was all supportive of that, as you know, and I'm glad that they made the right decision to put Rob on there, because there's so much politics at Dracut that you don't always see the right people get in. But you were absolutely right, and one of the things that I think that we should change in our charter is that if you are the runner-up, if you are the next person in line after an election, that you should be put up. And the only time that the two boards should get involved in it should be when there was no one else. In this case, there's nobody else running, right? So, but then you'd have to pick somebody.
Right.
But the bottom line is, the people speak, and just because you might have lost by, I don't even know what your vote was, it might have been just a couple of votes. People voted for you, and you should have the chance if you're the runner-up. So that's my opinion on
I agree. That's how Lowell does
charter.
it. That's the runner-up. If someone resigns, it's the runner-up that gets it.
And
you know?
it's more fiscally responsible for the towns, the cities, because you don't have to go through a whole election. And you don't want to spend a lot of time on making an appointment, because we know there's a lot of other things in town to be talking about and worrying about.
Maybe we can bring that up to the charter review.
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
well, that
wait,
would
I
be-
don't know if we can do that.
Yeah, I know, wait. That's right, because it's the town fathers there that want to control everything.
Yeah.
So hopefully, things will change and we'll have an open process for
Yeah,
the new
because
charter.
the charter is the people's document. It's for the
Exactly.
town. Yeah, it's our constitution.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening, the most important current issue that's facing the schools right now. And that issue, we have a clip on, and we're going to play that right now. The superintendent of schools, how long is that clip, do you know? 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah.
2 minutes? Well, we'll see how far we can go. But let's pay attention to this clip, because it's going to be the subject of what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes.
the rate, and the third is trash. Committee will remember, for 12 years, we've never been able to go out on our own for trash. Town managers have told me consistently that if we went out on our own, we would be removing a significant portion of trash pickup from the town's contract, and that would imperil the town's contract and/or rates. This past winter, in our negotiations and conversations about the chargebacks, I asked the manager if we could go out and without impacting the town. The contract's up. It's my understanding the manager's working on extension for FY25 for the town, and then we'll go out for a long-term contract in FY26. I was told that we absolutely could. If we wanted to go out to bid for trash on our own, we could do it. We started that process. I don't have a formal recommendation this evening. Mrs. Fields and Mr. Graham are still doing their due diligence on checking references, et cetera. But I expect that we have a trash bid that would have trash costing the district about $200,000 a year. Currently, if I have the number correct, the manager's placeholder for trash is $504,000 a year, next year. So we would see a significant savings if we were able to go out on our own for trash. And again, we were given the green light this winter and asked the question multiple times and wanted to be sure before I tasked Mrs. Fields and Mr. Graham with the onerous process of trying to find a trash vendor. So again, they're still finalizing their process, but it's a solid bid, and I was very pleased with those numbers. Today, I was copied on an email late this afternoon from Republic saying that no, we can't go out on our own, that the Republic would view it as a breach of contract if we went out on our own. I have not had an opportunity to process this. I'll be speaking with the manager in the morning, but it's clearly disappointing from my perspective that we were given the green light, we did the work, and we're staring at a significant savings in trash, some $300,000, that could then be shifted over to the appropriation side of the budget to, again, reduce our deficit situation.
Okay, there you have it in the nutshell, pretty much. We have more information about that, correct, Rob? over the course of the last couple of days, we've been focusing on this and trying to figure out what's going on. If that's true, what the superintendent just said, then there's been an awful lot of overcharging. We don't even know from the past how much was overcharged. If you're jumping from slightly over $200,000 to $500,000 for trash fee, that is an enormous jump for a contract that you know what the stable amount of trash you're picking up, right?
Right, and my idea of chargebacks, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, is that it's supposed to be actuals.
Yes.
It's what's being actually spent or utilized by the schools.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can they figure out the actual amount of trash they're picking up and removing if they're estimating it based on what figure? What are they estimating
Is it tonnage or?
It should be tonnage.
It's tonnage,
It's
and
tonnage.
that's in the 2011 chargeback agreement is the tonnage. My concern with even utilizing the pre-existing chargeback is that there's a 15% of the entire bill that gets charged by the town. 15% of that is being said to be by the schools. That doesn't make any
That doesn't
sense
even
to
make
me.
sense. The schools aren't even in operation
And so
the whole year.
And so the idea with the tonnage breakdown too that I've seen sent over to DESI was that, oh, it's a breakdown of summer and breakdown of the traditional school year, which, okay, I can understand that. But then there was, well, wait a minute, is it fully loaded? Is every single trash receptacle filled that we're disposing? Oh, no, I would think that, and similar to, Phil would understand this with concrete, you get a concrete truck, the truck shows up, you get a pink slip that says, hey, here's the amount in that truck. Well, is every truck filled? I'd like to know that. And if to estimate based off of a full use that every single child is filling those receptacles, I don't believe that.
Mm. So what we're looking at is if there's overcharging being done here, that's just egregious. And I have had issues with schools, as you know, and we've been on opposite sides of a couple things a couple times. And but I wanted to be clear on this. This is an egregious thing if they are using the chargebacks to help lessen the town side of the deficit. That's just not right, in my view. Right?
No, I think we all agree on that. That's
Yeah.
not the purpose of the chargebacks. It should be
Exactly.
actuals. Yeah.
And I
And
think
we're not even close. I mean, that's a bid that we got from a vendor that does work with schools in trash.
So you got permission to go out and get the bid, right, Rob?
Well, so that's the interesting part. At different times, there's been correspondence where there's been notification or notice that, yeah, the schools are going out to bid. The school sent an RFP out through the town. So the town should have been aware that, or looked at the proposal that was going out, the request for proposals. There's been correspondence leading up to that, and then an agreement was signed. Well, getting to that agreement, what's more interesting to me is in that scope of services now, it highlights what the school services should be for removal.
Right.
It is immensely lower than what is the placeholder for the schools. So if we have a placeholder of 500K or 509K, but we're now seeing a scope of services much less, close to probably 100K, we have a big issue here. So, it's said multiple times that the schools need to pay their fair share. Well, it sounds to me like the schools have been paying more than their fair share for multiple years.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I understand that, this is why agreements need to be revisited, whether it's, every 2 years or even annually.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a more described scope of services in a better way. If you're going to start charging back to the schools and putting placeholders of 500K,
Who makes the determination on the placeholder?
that is something I'd like to know a little bit more about and who's creating a lot of these calculations, because in my business, there's checks and balances. You sign off on it, somebody checks on it, both signatures are added. There's even an independent review sometimes of our submittals. These are finances and financial funding that's being taken from the schools.
Mm-hmm.
The schools are paying it. So what I'd like to see going forward is I want to see a recording of all our tonnage that we're using, or some way to gauge accurate numbers.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to blindly have us pay numbers that we don't have solid foundation for.
Right. So Phil, is it the manager that sets those estimates and the assistant town manager? They get the budget, right? They get the
I
budget.
would absolutely believe so. I mean, they're the two that are setting the budget, and so it's essentially their budget that they're presenting to the town, the Board of Selectmen.
So in my view, and I won't hold this to anybody else saying it, I'll say it, it's a bit ingenious. What?
Disingenuous.
Disingenuous, you got that. I had a Joe Biden moment, I'm sorry. But it is a little bit, suspect that you're using these figures, just pulling them out of the air. But my concern is this, Rebecca. The school department has the right to put out bids for contracts.
That's correct.
So why is the blame going to be put on the schools if you go out and bid that the contract for the town, it will be null and void or would be suspect?
I have no idea why the blame would be on us, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Well, I don't think they expected us to actually go through with it, is my guess,
Yeah.
right?
No, there's been
But
no
we did.
formal vote. Yeah.
No, there hasn't been a vote yet.
Yeah, but you suspect that there will be,
Well,
which is the responsible thing
Well,
in my view.
we're the fiduciary agent for the school department.
Right.
That we have 3 roles: set the budget, evaluate the superintendent, hire and fire, and set policy.
Right,
This is one of our primary functions.
right.
This gets into very much the same sort of situation with, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but
Yeah.
with the cannabis and the impact fees.
Yeah, exactly.
In that situation, the cannabis companies are certainly allowed to see what are the impacts. Show me, essentially in this case, a tipping slip. Because there are tipping slips for every truck that goes out, that collects rubbish, brings it to a facility, and tips their buckets and they weigh them. So show me the slips.
Right.
Exactly.
Show us how you came to this figure.
Or if nothing else, now that the school has a solid figure for what trash removal would be, I think the only fair thing is for the town to say, okay, if you got a quote for $200,000, we'll have to reduce this cost down to $200,000. And I think everyone, by doing that, I think everyone would be happy.
If they're, sincere about the effort that you're going to pay your fair share, you have a bid.
Yeah, we do.
And it's like, you're going out and getting bids on anything you buy, right?
That's right.
And if you get a lower bid, you go with the lower bid.
And for the vendor to come across and to send something, I'm not interested in the conversation that the vendor is trying to have with us. I'm looking more at what does the agreement say exactly word for word that the town has signed. Has Dracut Public Schools signed any contract?
Right.
We
that was my
have
next
not
question.
signed a contract.
You haven't signed any agreement with the town that says they're going to take care of the trash. It's just been a historical thing that's been happening here. Right?
And I'm starting to, so early in one of our meetings, I turned and I said, it really looks as though the schools have a lot of admin that they do on their own. And I said, how long has this been happening for? And Stephen, I believe in the meeting, said it's been occurring for a while. This is just how the schools have operated. And I went, oh. And now I'm looking at this going, well, now I kind of understand. I would like this to be done in-house. I like the idea of, having accountability within our admin. Because...
And how does the snow removal work? Is it similar situation with the?
Well,
that's another
that's
issue.
another issue.
I
Yep.
believe, was
Well,
it 8%?
She gave an absurd amount that she claimed what we were responsible for snow removal.
I believe it was almost 10% of the roadways in the schools, upwards to 10%.
Well, I would
at
think
the
if you went
beginning.
out and got your own quote for snow removal for the schools, that might be another.
It's not a bad idea,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we were that percentage. I don't believe that we were that percentage of the total towns.
I mean, I think
Plowing.
the schools could probably use $400,000 or $500,000, couldn't they?
So,
That's a few teachers and a couple
Yeah.
of programs, for sure.
Yeah.
and in Dracut, every dollar counts.
That's right.
And we've learned that really quickly, and especially when we're having a $2 million plus deficit coming up, potentially up to what, multi-million?
7 million, 8 million. They're asking for an override of 10 million, so.
And so getting to the snow removal that you mentioned, even the submittal to DESI didn't break down per equipment. Broke down basically per storm. And I'm looking at this from an engineer standpoint and an estimate. When I submit an estimate to the state, I have to include every vehicle or every different, category of worker that's being operated per hour. Well, I'm looking at this from that standpoint. I'm saying if for a chargeback, I would like a similar representation.
Right.
What does a typical storm require for cleaning and removal of our facilities? That should be itemized, and then that's more of an accurate depiction of what's an actual being utilized from the schools.
And what happens if we don't have the estimated amount of snow that everybody's saying we're gonna have? And then there's no snow removal, or very little, right? Do you get that back? Is there an adjustment somewhere along the line?
There should be an adjustment.
There
So
should
this is in the looking into the restructuring of the chargeback has now brought a lot of things into
light.
question and to light
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
So Rebecca, if it's your opinion though, that if we do it this way, we're gonna save a lot of money.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And it'll save some jobs in the future. Maybe not this particular budget, but in the future it will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now our schools, we're looking at potentially using the ESSER grants now.
Yes.
Things that could have been used for, different programs for helping the, improve the grades and in the test scores. Attendance, perhaps.
There's lots of different programs that you could use. We're looking to use $750,000 of ESSER money to cover the budget next year, which is fine. It's
Right.
allowable under ESSER, but that just means there's other supplemental programs or things we'd want to do in the schools that we can't.
But that's what ESSA was meant to
Yeah,
be.
That's what
exactly.
ESSER was
So
meant to be.
that's fine.
Right.
You know?
Same way as what the ARPA money is.
That's right.
It's the rescue plan, which we're going to get into later on in the day. But is there anything that we missed that we should bring to light on this chargeback for trash?
For the chargeback for trash, 300K savings.
Yeah.
I think we should highlight that, if anything. The notion that the schools are not in communication, there's communication going
Yeah.
back and forth. And multiple times, I believe there's a situation, and I wish I had documented it, that, the schools should just go out to bid then.
Yeah, well, when you did, this is
And the
what they had.
schools did
We did.
exactly what they were.
And we got a savings. We have a
Yeah.
bid that will be a remarkable savings, so.
So will you agree that this is not over, this particular subject, and it's going to be a
No.
hotly contested issue going forward? And there's a lot of questions to be answered that, is something being done that shouldn't be done? That shouldn't have been done. over
And
the
John, I have a
past?
question for you, being a former selectman.
Yeah.
Who's the buck stop with? Now, what happens if the town was doing this and they had knowingly done this on purpose to overcharge the schools, knowing that they're saying, well, oh, you know what, we're gonna save a little money here for the town, we'll just charge the schools and have it pay
Well,
back.
the leadership-
If they knowingly did that,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Well, there's heads that are on the chopping block, in my view. If they're knowingly doing, then there's an intent. And I'm not
Not to
saying
say that we are-
Not
that
to
there's-
saying that there is any intent, but the buck would stop with the Board of Selectmen, because that's who the boss is. A lot of times people will say that the manager's the boss, but who's the boss of the manager?
Now, if you put yourself back with the selectman's hat on, if you were currently sitting on the Board of Selectmen hearing this information, what would your
My
next step
reaction,
at the move,
I'd be-
at the
I'd
next
be-
meeting?
I'd be calling for a full-blown discussion on this issue and get an investigation in. And I would like to see what we would call, in my business as an investigator, a forensic
Analysis.
a forensic analysis of this whole thing, and go back 3 or 4 years and find out what has actually been
Now,
going on.
is your prediction that any of the selectmen will do that?
I have a prediction that a couple may try to, but they'll be stymied by the big three.
So
And
that's
we'll get
a
into that
prediction.
more.
We'll follow up on this.
Right.
in
So
future.
we're going to close out this section now, and we'll start with you on the closeout. Look into that camera, and once again, give a 30-second request for votes.
All right, well, thank you for voting me in 3 years ago. I look forward to serving the Dracut Public Schools for another 3 years and working on all of the important initiatives that we have. Education is the foundation of our community, and I look forward to continuing that work and serving the families and children of Dracut.
Thank you very much. Rebecca, how about you, Rob?
Yes, Rob Shepard, I humbly ask for your vote on May 4th. I'm looking to utilize my skills and the knowledge that I gained in my education and the college education that I've received. I want to better our town, and I want to apply those skills and knowledge to assist our school district. I believe that if you can give back, the best way is to give back to your town. And thank you.
We'll be right back in a minute, but Phil's going
Yeah,
to set
so
up this
we have a small clip, a blast from the past, if you want. This was a meeting back in June of 2020, Tammy Dristialaris' last meeting, and there was being a hot debate regarding DATV, and I suppose the fond farewell that Mr. Dracut gives Tammy, I give back to him.
There you go.
If you could play the clip, please.
Thanks again.
If you want to sign an agreement, then you have to decide what you want to do.
Through the
Right.
chair. And
Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
so a contract wouldn't get rid of a program that somebody doesn't want, because I think that's the agenda.
No,
No, for me, it's about the liability, what he
I'm
had talked about.
not talking about you. I'm talking
No,
about
I know, I'm just saying, I want to keep it to the facts of the issues with, for a liability reason, I think we need a contract.
they've
First
been around
thing-
since 1996. It's
But I,
been
think
like
I thought we had one when we had the cable advisory committee. I thought there was a little more oversight when we first got, going back 6 years when we first got on the board. But
but you can't stop programming just because you don't like it. You can't. It's free speech. You'll get sued. So you don't want to open the lawsuit up to the town up to more lawsuits, Mr. Dracut. You've already done enough damage over the years.
all right, shall we move on?
Thank God you're leaving. Anyway,
Oh,
this thing, this,
Can you imagine the classless move of the sitting, father of Dracut and Joe Dracut sitting on that board, turning to one of the few females that have served at that time, and saying that kind of a disparaging comment to her as she's leaving? Can you imagine that, Phil?
No, it doesn't surprise me knowing who it is.
Right. And later on, you're going to see how his farewell went during the last board meeting. It's just unbelievable that this is the kind of class that this guy has. And me, for one, I'm happy to see him go.
So if I may, further, towards the end of that particular meeting, because it was Tammy's last meeting,
Yep.
she was so grateful for serving on the Board of Selectmen, and she just had praise after praise for not for her and for other people, but for the town of Dracut for giving her the honor of serving.
Very true.
Very classy.
So we have our next guest here with us, and of course it's Josh Taylor, who is a candidate for selectman, but more importantly to us, is he's now a sponsor of What's Happening Dracut. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for that.
No problem at all. I was glad to do it. This show is good for the community. I think it's got more followers than any other network show on any of the social media platforms.
Yeah.
So to me, that means the community really enjoys it. So, a small sponsorship of it does great for the show. I'm happy to do it.
Well, thank you so much. So we wanted to bring you on today to discuss a little bit about the campaign, because
Sure.
you're into the last week, 1 week from today.
Absolutely.
And there's no question about how the momentum seems to be going your way in a lot of ways. And we're going to talk about endorsements after you leave, but we want to talk about a couple of endorsements right now. So I'm going to
Sure.
turn it over to Gordy to say his little piece right now.
So last week you were on the show, Josh, and I
was.
wasn't ready to endorse you. But today I want to look in the camera and say I'm endorsing Josh for selectman. And this is really, I think we'll all agree, this is the most important vote you're going to have probably in your lifetime. And you need to vote for Josh. I've been doing my research. I wanted to make sure I was standing right
appreciate it.
behind the right person. And I want to bring this up because I heard this from 3 separate people, which I didn't know. You used to work for Dave Martin, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And if you remember back, Mr. Zimini ran for the water moderator.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
And Dave Martin ran against you.
Right.
And he won.
Right.
And what I found shocking is that he stepped down immediately after that. And so he didn't want the position. He was going for it because you were running.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've heard, and I didn't know this prior to a few days ago when I talked, 3 separate people told me the same story, is I think the reason he's running is because it's a vendetta against you personally. And because of that, I cannot vote for someone that would do that to another person. So not only that, but there's other good reasons,
I
obviously,
appreciate it.
for you to run for selectman. But I just wanted to tell you to your face, I'm voting for you, my family, and I'm asking everyone that follows me on Facebook to vote for Josh because we need him big time.
Just to back up for a minute about that moderator issue on the waters, there was no one running for the position. We were getting down to the last days of it, and it was going to be an open position.
That's right.
Which would have threw it into the board making a decision or somebody stepping up to be the moderator. So I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to throw my name in. Of course, she immediately got red in the face and says, oh, we're going to get back into this again, and they're not going to spend any of our money, because when I ran, I spent like 20 grand and never got reimbursed, you know, but that all had been said and done, that's fine. But I said to her, no, I'm running just strictly on putting my name on the ballot, and if somebody else runs, I don't plan on doing any campaigning that will cost us money. I'll just
You told
reach
me
out
that.
to people.
You told me that.
And did I tell you? I did
Yeah.
tell you that, didn't
Yeah.
I? Phil, and I think I said it to
Absolutely.
everybody else. So I offered myself up for something, a person who knows Robert's rules pretty good, and would be that would be a natural thing for me. But I really wasn't interested in doing
No,
it.
because
for
I
long
asked you
term.
do you want donations for your campaign? You said, no, I'm not even.
Yep, not
Yep.
doing any of that, and,
Yep.
and I appreciate it. But
Hey.
let's talk about you. Go
Well,
ahead.
Gordy, I really appreciate the endorsement. It means a lot. I never heard that story personally, so I find that
I had
quite,
three separate people.
Yeah,
tell me.
I've never heard it, but you know, where they're throwing around the words quitter on their campaign things, to find out that he was elected for a committee and quitted is quite amazing. But,
Yeah.
or a position, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I just found it very interesting.
Right.
You know, I appreciate your endorsement. I picked up another one this morning, Charlie Canavas.
Oh, wow.
Housing and
Nice.
Planning Board announced on social media.
Awesome.
You know, Heather Santiago Hutchins came out last night.
Yeah.
It's been, the realm of support is mind-blowing. When I came into this, I didn't have support from anybody. It was just, I'm doing it for the community.
We want someone that can't be controlled, and I don't think you're a guy.
Yeah, they should know by now. I'm not the guy that's ever going to be controlled.
Yeah, they
so
should know that.
They should know.
But you also got the support of Renee Young. And we'll put that up on the who's that? You got Renee?
Yep.
Let's put that up on the screen from, there it is right there. That was on social media probably a week and a half ago.
Yep.
And she's come out for you, which is a big thing. And, you know, I don't always agree with the schools, and I haven't agreed with Renee and Volpe and a couple of others there, but at least we can say we can support the same people for not any other reason but what we think is what's right for the town. We also had Allison Volpe. She came out, and there's a little bit of a story behind that, you know, I think her particular endorsement, if you can pick that up on the screen, and I don't know if you can you zoom in at all?
Yeah, I can.
She makes a really scathing remark, as far as I'm concerned, about the powers that be there, and that you know they have been devastating to this town in a lot of ways. They just do whatever the hell they want to do, and we know, Josh, that when you get on there, there's nobody's going to say to you, you vote this way or else. You know, there's not going to be any control.
That's not going to happen
No,
with me.
anything that gets voted on is going to be based on what your analysis will be and the end result.
And
that's
that's
gonna
all you
be-
can ask for.
It's going to be based on my analysis. It's going to be based on my communication with fellow board members and with people in the community.
Right.
You know, I'm going to do the best to get educated from everybody that's got input on it, and I'm going to vote in the best favor of everybody, not for a particular group or a particular person.
So let's talk a little bit about endorsements, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of talk out there about how you have endorsements from people who are past selectmen and current selectmen, and Dave also has endorsements from past selectmen and other people within the town. So, and he also has town hall, and he also has the big three, I call it, on the board of selectmen: Dracut, Kopsinski, and Janest. Now, Plummer has got the endorsement of former selectman Warren Shaw. Now, Warren Shaw is obviously one of the most known political figures from the past. And he has a radio show on WCAP, Saturday Morning Live. He carries a lot of weight with endorsements. So for him to be there and endorsing Plummer, that's a plus for Plummer, as far as I'm concerned. It's also a negative, right? Because there's people that don't like Shaw. There's people that don't like me. I've endorsed you, and I told you before I endorsed you, if you want me to make it public, I'll be happy to make it public. If you don't, I'm happy to do that too, because I don't want to hurt you. Because I know that there's a lot of people that will say to you, I'm not for you because of John Zimini. And I think the same thing holds with Phil. Phil, you endorsed.
Yes, that absolutely correct. And so what you're bringing up is kind of an interesting point that I was talking with somebody, and again, not voting for Dave Martin because he's part of the Town Hall West sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they were saying, that sort of guilt by association is a terrible thing. And I had all I could do to keep myself from laughing. It's
Right.
like you're talking to the wrong person if you think I'm going to go with that guilt by association thing.
Yeah, no, that's not it. It's what they have done in the past.
Exactly. So what I like about Josh is that he'll make the right decision, what he believes is the right decision. And he's not going to let politics get involved with that. He's going to make the right decision, what he believes is the right decision, based on the information he gets and his discussions with
You have to separate
everybody.
the personnel from the
Absolutely.
decision. You have to vote on the business end of it and that only. And you have to be able to take feelings and everything else aside, What I find absolutely amazing about this election cycle, I've never seen the amount of endorsements come out in any cycle that I'm ever familiar with. And I've got endorsements from, both sides, basically, of, we've got school committee, we've got former selectmen, we've got residents posting on Facebook. I've never seen such a wide spectrum of endorsements. So, when you and I met and you asked me that question, if somebody doesn't agree with what you say, that's fine. There's somebody else that they may agree with that's already endorsed me.
Right.
So I'm here to bring everybody together, and it's amazing. I have endorsements from people that you may not agree with.
Right.
But so be it,
And
because
we've
everybody
talked
sees the
about
same
that.
thing, that I am here for Dracut.
There is one particular thing that I think is really egregious, is when there's a group in town that continually talks about power and that the other side is trying to grab the power. Well, who are they trying to grab the power from, first of all? Who has the power? And the second thing is, the only thing that I ever ran for public office is, and I feel this is you too, is not power for personal use, not for my personal use like I believe that the big three are using it for gaining their friends' favor and also for gaining themselves, enriching
Or
themselves.
keeping their enemies from
helping
participating.
out, right. I never subscribed to that, but that group of Town Hall West is so vicious and so bad. What they put out in
And
some
they
of their,
say we do.
and they always project what they do, right?
Yeah.
But to me, I ran to give the power back to the people. And I would say, listen, I'm going to make the determining factor because my vote is I'm here to do that. And if you have a split vote, then it's up to me to make sure that I do the right thing for the majority of the people in town as much as I possibly can without taking my own personal vendettas into it. But they do it all the time. So I would never support anybody that has been supported by the Vizina group and that whole thing. I mean, Warren Shaw is a guy who I've disagreed with on many different accounts, but he's done tremendous things for the town, and there's times when we haven't talked, and there's times when we're talking. And right now is one of those times we do. He's supporting a very good candidate. I don't think Don Plummer's a bad candidate at all. I don't think he's a bad guy, and I think if he was to win, that it would be all right with me, but I really want to see the guy that I think will do best and not have any kind of strings attached to them whatsoever. So, I mean, George Meliaris is another one who's supporting Plummer. So don't try to tell me that endorsements are going to hurt the other two candidates and not hurt the other one or help the other one, when I think that they will. So anyways, Josh, Tony Archinsky and Heather Hutchings has also supported you.
Absolutely.
And of course, that thing is going to be that, oh yeah, well, they just want to shift the power. What do you say about that?
I've already told him so. Tony and I are probably already going to be in a disagreement on certain things, so that's okay.
Right.
I'm not doing this to choose sides with anybody. I'm doing it to be independent.
Right.
So whether I agree with Tony, whether I agree with Allison or Jen, it doesn't matter. I'm going there for what's right for the people.
So you've also gotten the endorsement from Tammy Dristolaris.
Yeah.
Which to me, she's a top flight person, and-
Absolutely. And you spoke about, I wish you had her endorsement to put up on your screen, because there was some powerful stuff in that one.
Yeah.
We had so many of them, and it's hard to hit them all correctly.
Right.
But hers, with how corruption really is there from a sitting seat,
Right.
was people should look at that letter.
Exactly. We'll get it. We have it up on our Facebook page, and we'll definitely revisit that in the very near future. But right now, I want you to look into that camera and tell the people for one last time to,
All right.
on our show.
Well, yeah, we got a week to go, so
Yes.
I'm sure I'll say it a few more times, but I would really appreciate and I respectfully ask for your vote on May 4th for Dracut to move Dracut forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Josh. And we'll set up this next piece. Phil, you ready? You want to?
No, that's I
Okay,
think good.
so we got another piece where Joe DeRocco gets on as his last meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Here's a guy that's been on there for nearly 20 years, and his legacy is what he's going to talk about right now. Go right ahead.
Okay, ready, Matt?
Thanks again, Josh.
The same year that Bush and Cheney had run, and they got 6,671 votes. Susan Tucker, she was the senator at that time. She got 8,929. I mean, I'm proud to say that I got, for the first vote, it's probably a record in town, I'm not sure, but I got 7,389 votes. The closest competitor, well, I'll call him, I'll leave his name out for now, but I'll call him Mr. Benham. He's been obsessed with me for 20 years. He's done nothing but attack me, my family, my friends, anybody I have contact with. So I don't know who he'll attack now, but I'm sure it'll be somebody. Whoever he's not endorsing, he will probably do that. For those that don't know the name, and we will say it is John Zimini. But besides that, I'm very proud to have worked with Dracut. I think we've got a lot of things done over the years. We've got fire stations, we've got schools, we've got library, we've got this town hall that we're in. It goes on and on and on, the things that I feel that I've been a part of. And I'm very proud to say that, I was born in Dracut, raised in Dracut, lived in Dracut all my life, and I'm proud of Dracut. And I think Dracut is a community that a lot of other towns in our area envy.
Phil, do you feel upset that he didn't mention your name?
I do. I mean, we have a history together. I mean, I thought we were brothers.
I know. But, as far as Joe DeRocco and I, we go back a long way, as you said.
You certainly have a longer history.
We do, and we have, and I'm glad.
Mr. Venom.
I'm glad that I'm renting space for free in his head, because he's been after me. He says, again, this is turning the tables. He says I've been after him for 20 years. I've only been holding his feet to the fire for the things that I believe that he's done wrong, and many people agree with me on it. But the thing is that this is your chance. This was his chance to highlight the things he did as a selectman. Now, all the things that he mentioned, the fire stations, he worked on the fire stations when he was a fire chief. He worked on the fire stations when he was a member of the Board of Selectmen, not the proponent of it, not the guy who proposed it. He worked on having the library redone. I was on that board. I was also on the board for renovations to the fire department. The library I was on the board for. The town hall I was on the board for. The high school renovations I was on the board. So we all share that stuff, Joe. You didn't do that.
Well, I would even go one spot further. And station number 3 out in Collinsville, he actually tried to squash that.
He tried to squash it
because it was being proposed through through Jim Duggan by me. I gave him some information about this is what we could do on existing land.
Yep.
And when he found out that I had given Jim the information for it, he tried to squash it.
The biggest legacy of Joe DeRocco, I believe, are at least 2 issues, biggest issues. One is that, he said he was going to be one of the guys on the board that's going to be for the senior citizens. He squashed the senior citizen housing that we proposed, and me and another group, a bunch of people, a group, you were part of that group,
yes,
that proposed to purchase Richardson Farm. We own Richardson Farm. We bought it, and we were ready to go with affordable, low income, not just medium income, but low income housing of 65 units on that property, right?
Correct.
And at that time, Kenny Martin was the chairman of the housing authority, correct?
Ken Kuna was involved also.
Ken Kuna was involved, and that was there was state money available for that kind of 30% housing. He squashed it. He put roadblocks in place of it, all about because he didn't get his way on Louisburg Square, which was a whole other debacle that he tried to jam down the throats of Dracut.
Plus, he had the town spend another $150,000 for a study to see if the Richardson Farm, a 17-acre lot, was as good as the Spring Park Ave Dracut Center School, which is a 29,000 square foot lot. He thought that was a better site. And so I had done a little study on that, I think, I mean, jokingly, and essentially called it, Dracut Towers, because it would have had to have been an 18-story building to get the same number of housing units.
Right. So he again, it's all about being vindictive and venom. He says I was the guy who's been attacking him for 20 years. I didn't live in town for 3 years. And he mentioned my name more when I was out of town than when I was in town, because I was preoccupied with other things. I couldn't answer him back. He even dragged me back to come on a show, that show that I left, for obvious reasons. But he talked about us with DATV and the whole 9 yards. He's just a vindictive, venomous guy, and the two people that are in the same camp as him, Janest and Kopczynski, are culpable and are complicit in allowing this guy to do what he's done for the many years. The number one part of his legacy is that he's leaving the town with a $10 million future deficit. He's leaving it with that. Folks, think about that. So think about that when you go to the polls. He's supporting Dave Martin. That's his chosen candidate. And Dave wants to say that, people will say, I'm the chosen candidate. Dave, own up to it. You are the chosen candidate. You are Lucky Vizina's candidate. You are Joe DeRocco's candidate. You don't have Warren Shaw because he knows and he sees what this is going to be. He sees what you've done. Joe, you also left up the legacy of Ann Vandal and that whole debacle on how he pulled the rug out from underneath the open, transparent process of hiring a new manager, right, Phil?
Absolutely.
So you were the chairman of that board, and obviously nothing you wanted was ever going to get placed.
No, apparently not. And I know one rumor that seems to be persistent even to this day is that screening committee did not interview Ann Vandal, which is absolutely a lie. And I'm not sure who is spreading it, but whoever is lying, because she was given the same opportunity as every other candidate.
Exactly. Now, I have information from a very reliable source, and I won't mention the source. If that source wants to mention it and wants me to mention it, they're online watching the show right now. They can always just chime in and say, go ahead and mention it, right? But I have a reliable source that said that they were in the presence of Joe DeRocco the day that the announcement was coming out of who the choices were, and Ann Vandal made a call to Joe DeRocco, and she was bawling her eyes out, crying to Joe DeRocco that she didn't make the cut. And then, of course, in Joe DeRocco's Tammany Hall boss hog style, he convinced Jesse Forcier to come over, and the rest is history. They threw out a very capable, and qualified amount of people that you and your committee had moved forward. One of which was the developer. He has hands in developing a whole new town within a town.
Yes, he was the executive director of the Devon's Economic Development Commission. So, I mean, somebody who knows economic development.
Well, I wonder if we would be in the same position we're in today had he been here.
Oh, I would bet that we would not. We would be in good shape.
So let's talk about some connecting the dots here, okay? You mentioned earlier that you heard from people about Martin and how he's vindictive. Well, he's in the same mold as, the former fire chief, Joe DeRocco. So he's just another guy who I have some notes from some people that sent me some
It's
some
WWJD.
WWJD.
What would Joe do?
That's exactly what one of these quotes is. What would Joe do? What would Joe do? And that's good point. And that's where he will be. You know, he's for the TIF, for Joe's best friend, right? He's for that $135,000 TIF to Joe's best buddy who holds signs. And by the way, contributed to the Martin campaign. We have the campaign finance reports. He's on that report. Eddie Ayotte has given money to Mr. Martin. He's also given money to, he covers the base, by the way, because he did that with me, right? When I ran against Joe, he did the same thing. He covered the base. He gives money to Joe. He gives money to me. He gave money to Martin. He gave money to Plummer. So I mean,
I feel slighted again. I never got money from him.
I know. See, there you go. All right. So, but you got a retired captain from the Dracut Fire Department. Does anybody wonder why the fire department hasn't endorsed him? Has anybody wondered why?
Yeah.
You know? And he mentions that, you know, in here that he's kind of even-tempered. He's mentioned it at several of the, forums that they had, that, you know, he's easy to talk to and that it's, you know, he gets along with everybody. Well, he doesn't get along with everybody, and he's not easy to talk to. If you look at his demeanor during those, you got to check demeanor out. The guy he looks too stoic. Too even keeled.
Doesn't have much of a personality.
It's almost like he's wound up that he's going to explode at any time, right? And if it's true that he's willing to work with everybody, how come he hasn't spoken to either Heather or Tony Archinsky since he's been in this race, since he announced that? He didn't. He just doesn't. You know.
He's the only one that didn't come on this show.
He won't come on the show because he won't face. And folks. Honestly, I did not have my mind made up. You heard Josh Taylor say that 2 weeks ago on this show. I did not say that I was openly supporting anybody. I wanted to give all three candidates the opportunity. Don Plummer graciously came on, did a great job as far as I'm concerned. He won me as a fan, not for this particular race, but he won me as a fan in the future. I think he's a good guy that we shouldn't turn our back on at some point down the line. But, you know, he keeps covering. Martin keeps covering for the manager in many, many ways. But there's so many other things that I could talk about. Phil, did you happen to see, I'm going to try to pull out, did you happen to see what's the Civic Watch post? It was a Civic Watch
I saw something
post.
I had not had the opportunity to read it.
That there was an analysis of the, and it's a good analysis, and I want to point you out to. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I want you to take a look at that. That's Phil. That's Cowan, Rich Cowan, who I'm not always on the same page with either, but we have good conversations and good pushback to each other. But he does a synopsis on each one of the candidates' recently filed campaign reports, and he connects some good dots. So I wanted to go through that a little bit right now, right? So let's talk a little bit about Dave Martin and how he has benefited by being in the town and being on several boards. The Town Hall West wants him because he's a guy that'll go lockstep in anything that they want. It's interesting because we had an analysis done of the last 12 years, and Dave likes to point to the budget book as the gospel as to why we need more money. I'm going to point to the gospel that's going to prove that why we should be more careful with how we spend our money, and that's the town report. So I had the opportunity to have an analysis done of the last 12 years' town reports. So this is public document, folks. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not trying to create.
You're not making stuff up.
I'm not making stuff up. This is in the document. These are in these documents from 2010 till now. Dave Martin owned a company by the name of Creative Carpentry, right? And he owned that in between 2012 or whatever and 2015. He probably had it before that. During that time, he did no bid or emergency work for the town to the tune of $16,107. He got that directly into his pocket somehow, okay? And now he owns Dave Martin Remodeling. Folks, this is something that you should be wildly opposed to. A person who is connected in town, has friends in town, he's close friends with Joe DiRocco, and he gets the preferences from the management of Town Hall when these emergency things come up. He gets the call. There's people in Town Hall that refer people to Dave Martin. How can the Town Hall be referring Dave Martin when Dave is sitting on certain boards here? Is there any kind of ethical violation there? Do you think, is he a special employee of the town if he's on a committee?
No, from what I've been told, he is not, because there are no special employee
So that means
designations.
he's considered an employee.
He is considered a full employee of the town of Dracut.
Okay, so from the years 2016 to 2022, Dave Martin has gotten from the town, through being an alleged vendor, he got $82,555 in his pocket. This is lining the pockets of friends in Dracut. And that friendship goes all the way to Town Hall West, which is Lucky Vizina and Joe DiRocco and Gail Flaherty and all those people that work down there that are in part of this cabal. Genest, Allison Genest is part of that crew. She's got a job through Joe DiCarlo. It's on a campaign finance report who she works for up in, I think it's in Nashua or in Tingsboro. And when she gave a donation, she listed who she works for. And the owner of that company is Joe DiCarlo, who also gave $1,000 to Mr. Martin, right? And all that money that is being spent there is going back into Martin's pocket with work from Town Hall. Let's talk about Lucky Burner, right? Lucky Burner Services. This is record stuff. This is stuff that is proof. We've proof. Over the last 12 years, Lucky Vizina and Lucky Oil has had the pleasure of having an inn at Town Hall and getting all these different work contracts to the tune of $217,000, $746. It's unheard of. And we'll even connect it further. Let's go to Carbon Copies. That's Ann Tenorella. She lives in Tingsboro, if I'm not mistaken. She's the chosen printer of Dracut. She got, over the last 12 years, $401,000 and change. I mean, it's very profitable being friends with Joe DiRocco, Dave Martin, Allison Genest, Kopczynski. It's very profitable for those people. This is outrageous stuff. Outrageous stuff. And, it's time that people wake up. This isn't what you're not going to get this from Josh Taylor. You're not going to get a guy who's going to have work done on town properties from his friends.
So I can certainly speak to working for the town because at one point the town hall needed an additional office space. So I was questioned by a committee about, hey, Phil, could you draw up a little sketch for this? So I contacted ethics because I sit on the building committee. And I said, can I do this work? And they said, absolutely not. You are an employee of the town of Dracut. I said, could I volunteer the work? They said, absolutely not. You are an employee of the town of Dracut. You cannot do anything that essentially affects you financially. And even volunteering, I still have to cover insurances and payroll and stuff like that for my employees. So they said, absolutely not. It's an ethics violation to begin with. I'm not sure if it actually steps into the realm of being criminal. It may.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, that's something that needs to be exposed. It needs to be exposed, and we're doing it here today. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the contributors to Dave Martin and what what they are doing in town. So you have Eddie Ayotte. He made a $200 donation in the first reporting cycle. Eddie Ayotte has applied for and got the sanction from the board, majority of the Board of Selectmen, and I know that Heather Santiago voted against it at 17 Arlington Ave, and that's for the reconstruction of the building of J&J HVAC, right? He's supposedly a town vendor, right? He got $24,000 in the 2022 annual report. You can go find that out. He's done work for the town. I mean, these are all suspect things that are going on. And I also pointed out that Ayotte supported or also gave a donation to Don Plummer, former fire chief, who's really well liked down at the fire department. There aren't maybe 5 people down there, and Dave Martin was probably one of them, one of the most avid supporters of Dave Brulette. He gave $100, and he has endorsed Martin. He's pictures all over Martin's Facebook page with Dave Brulette, who was, the guy served our country, and he did great things for our country, and I applaud him for that. But he was a very volatile chief. Nobody liked his personality. There was constant problems down there, as opposed to now, there are no problems down there because the chief, Rich Patterson, who I'm casually friendly with, but he's done a decent job down there, right? But nothing unusual with Dave Brulette because he's one of those chief guys, and of course, Fire Chief DeRocco supports Martin, so Brulette would support him. He got a large payout when he went out the door on his retirement, a large payout, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. So now let's get to Proper Farm. Proper Farm, which has come up, and it's an executive session thing, right, Phil?
Well, I suppose we may need to give some reference to that because
Sure.
I'm sure nobody out there knows anything about Proper Farm.
Right. So go
So
ahead.
Proper Farm is owned by the Brocks. John Brocks, I believe, he's one of the Brocks.
And we have a picture, so you can put that up on the screen if you don't, while Phil's
Yeah,
talking.
so it's a 26-acre parcel, and it's that farmland on 113 as you take the long curve heading towards Methuen. It's on your right-hand side. Beautiful acreage.
There's a
Prime.
Dave Martin sign on there, by the way.
And it's prime farmland, and Warren Shaw and the state have been trying to get an agricultural preservation on this particular property. And it looked like it was pretty much a done deal until Mr. Brocks went to the Board of Selectmen to make the announcement, and Mr. DeRocco said, well, that'd be a nice location for a school.
Right.
Where'd that come from?
Well, it's anything to stop something it's another vendetta, like you said.
I believe
because Shaw was involved in the background trying to help him through the APR process, which is a good thing. And that would be a good thing for the town to protect it. And we would always have the development rights.
Right.
Right?
So that is, and I'm sure everybody would agree, that is an iconic farm parcel.
Right.
It is as iconic as coming down Mammoth Road, or going up Mammoth Road as you're entering into Dracut, and you see the big triangle.
Right.
Which I believe is also known as the Long View.
And that's Richardson Farm.
And that's
the old
that's a
farm,
Richardson farm also.
Right. Yeah.
And it's iconic. So you have both ends of town essentially bookended by these scenic vistas. And, why don't we just put a school there, or put a DPW garage there? Or, well, I don't know, because we really don't know what we're going to do with it. But let's buy it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I question whether they can use ARPA money for that.
Oh, I don't see how, because there's no determination of what to use it for.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, if you don't mind my language, bitched and complained about Beaverbrook Farm, which the town bought for $2.5 million, which is another issue. Could the Beaverbrook Farm of 25 acres be appraised at $2.5 million and the Proper Farm of 26 acres be appraised at $1 million?
By the way,
I'm not sure how that happens.
by the way, Gordy, did you know that that Dave Martin did work on the old farmhouse at Beaverbrook Farm before we sold it to the current owner? And that information came to me from several sources, and it's also part of money that he got through CPC. He got paid to do repairs on the house gutters up there. Now, they're going to say that I'm throwing all this stuff out and it's dirty politics. No, it's not dirty politics. It's showing you the type of person you have in the form of Dave Martin that is running for public office here that will continue the same cronyism that Joe DeRocco and the big three on the Board of Selectmen have done for years. Let's talk about Joe DiCarlo. I like Joe DiCarlo as an individual and as a person. He was a businessman. He's a former owner of Scola's. Great chef, great food back in the day. He owns a couple of pieces of property in Dracut. He's on several boards. He gave $1,000 to I believe $1,000 to Dave Martin, and he's on several boards here. He's also been the recipient of some, I believe, some grants through the town, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mixing that up. Well, let me see. I'll read it right here. Dracut secured $250K in 2021 for the funding to pay for the removal of the dam that's next to I believe it's Tucad Inc., right? That's the mill building on what is it, Pleasant Street?
That's Pleasant Street.
You familiar
yeah.
with that?
So the funding, I'm not sure if it just that one particular. I know that funding is taking care of, I think, 3 dams.
Okay, right.
The one over in Collinsville, next to where we are, as a matter of fact. There's one off of Victory Lane, which is kind of hidden, and then there's the one at the Navy Yard.
Yeah, but you can see that particular story in the Lowell Sun if you Google that stuff. That's in the Lowell Sun. So that's we have information on that too. So now we got Gail Flaherty, who is she works for Lucky Burner, and services that the HVAC stuff. And they received just in the last few years what I told you before, $217,000. I mean, they've had jobs from that have amounted to, in one given year up to $50,000 that were broken up in different jobs. And I mean, that is just the same thing as we say, that's Town Hall West. That's stuff that you need to be aware of. These people want to maintain their power. We have no power. The only power we have is the power of our voice and the power of our ability to tell you, the people, the truth. Lucky Vizina, he's the same guy that Gail Flaherty is associated with and came after me when I ran. They were after me sending dirt all over town that was all proven wrong, and that's what they do every year, and it's unbelievable. Brian Lucia, who's a good guy, done a lot for the town. His father Jerry did a lot for the town. He's the past president of Vespa Country Club. He gave $1,000 to Dave Martin. We're telling you all these players in town that continue to have different things, and I don't think that Jerry Lucia and Brian Lucia are bad people. I just think that they're using whatever the influence they can to try to better the community, but in term, it's just another part of the web that I'm concerned with. Paul Moran, he gave $100 to, Paul Moran's another good guy, but he's been around 100 years. He's on the school committee at Greater Lowell, a job which nobody really wants. I mean, Matt Sheehan got the job because nobody ran against him. It's the only thing that he can win. Right, so it's amazing. Matt Rancourt is another HVAC contractor who's gotten money. He's given $100 or so, and I'm sure he's going to give more. And we mentioned Ann Tenorella, who's a town who received payments from the town 10 times during COVID. 10 times she got money from the town during the reports prove it. From 2020 to 2022, she made over $400,000 in 12 years on the town. I mean, is there that much printing and copying going on that we put out?
I would have thought they would have done most of that in-house.
And she's an opponent, by the way, to marijuana legislation, despite the possible revenue. Her town didn't want the marijuana in Tingsboro, so she's opponent to that. And there's reference to that also in our research through the Lowell Sun. It's just amazing. It's just amazing the stuff that has been going on in town, and people haven't brought it out. I mean, I make sure that everything I mention here today, I have backup, I have proof. It's public documents, it's public record. You can look at the same stuff, folks. All it takes is a couple of minutes to do it, or having somebody that's willing to help out. So let's talk a little bit about Proper Farm and how we want to purchase that farm. Dave Martin has a sign on it, as you know. So he's already in the satchel on that one, right? So they have been having executive sessions, right? And I don't know what's been going on in the executive sessions, but I do know that the agenda that they have posted has mentioned the farm on Broadway Road, and it has absolutely mentioned the farm. I have it somewhere here.
So it mentions the acreage of the property, it mentions that it's on Broadway Road, but it does not give the address.
Okay.
There
All
are
right.
there are probably 5 farms that would match that description.
But we know that they're talking about that because
Well-
John Brox was at the meeting.
But
Right.
it didn't say that John Brox was going to be in the executive session either.
But he
So
did, right? Did he go to executive session?
I don't know. See, that's one thing with this whole issue is that, okay, the Board of Selectmen are talking about this,
Yep.
secret squirrel sort of scenario.
Yeah.
But I guess it was also discussed at the FinCom meeting?
Yeah.
In open session?
Yes, it
So
was.
why would the Board of Selectmen need to be in secret mode on this?
Yeah, I don't think it's an accepted way of doing it, but
No, and it just goes to show you, as you said earlier, the Tammany Hall attitude that 3 people take of, what are you going to do about it?
yeah, right, exactly. What are you going to do about it? We're in charge, and that's Allison Janest. Allison Janest is the chairperson, and she does whatever the puppet master said.
So I'll keep talking because,
Go ahead.
I know I'm not going to get ever appointed to another committee
No,
anyway.
never. Not as long as those guys are involved.
And I've said to a number of people, they think by taking away my vote, it will stop me. But it's not the vote that matters, it's the voice.
Right, exactly. How many times have they tried to stop us here on DATV and on our show by trying to, squeeze us for content and things of that nature? And that's all put behind Joe DeRocco.
Yeah, I mean, even for that 3-2, I'll say strong arm town council to say, yeah, if it's the will of the selectmen, then you can stop people from having their freedom of speech.
No, exactly. We have a bunch of comments here, Gordy. I don't know if you've seen any of them, and some of them go back to when we were having a discussion on the chargebacks and what have you. So
there was an earlier one too, voting, registering to vote. That date has already passed. That was on the 24th.
I didn't realize that,
So
and I
we'll
did
just
say
clear that
oops.
up.
I did say oops on that. So oops on that one. But if you can get down and vote, you should be doing that. But Renee Young pointed out that that the town manager said at the Board of Selectmen meeting that if we do not like the numbers she's giving, we'd have to get our own bids, which they went out
And they called her bluff.
They called her bluff. And now I'm sure she's aware that.
Now, I think they may be going to get a bid for snow and ice removal, too.
Yeah, and I think that now that they called the bluff, of course, Republic doesn't want to lose all that tonnage.
No.
So they sent a letter saying that, oops, if you do
Cease
that,
and desist.
You're gonna end up, being breach of contract.
And so here's another issue I have with that is, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. If the town hasn't been true and square with the trash, what else aren't they being true and square with?
about, yeah.
Right. No,
Everything is
exactly.
now suspect.
Yeah, and Allison Volpe points out that, the town manager, she throws the estimates in, and I'm sure that her crony there, the other guy, Victor,
The one that Dave wants to groom.
Yeah, Dave is grooming,
be.
by the way. They're saying that, secession plan. Folks, that's just another word for cronyism, baby, because we're going to get the next guy in line because that person is in lockstep with what the current powers to be want to be doing. And that's just outrageous that he would even think that and say that. And, some of that he said during, at one forum, he said that he fully supports the manager and he wouldn't be for going out. He'd like to look in-house first. And so that's just code word for, I'm for Victor Garofalo, plain and simple. That's all it is.
John, I heard a rumor.
Yeah.
Something about a retaining wall. Do you know anything about
Yeah,
that?
I know a little bit about a retaining wall. There's a retaining wall on Helen Drive, which we're going to be looking into. We haven't had a lot of time to look fully into it, but we've been made aware of it. It's gone out to bid.
It's a rumor.
It's a rumor. And the rumor is that retaining wall is actually being placed to hold back land or property that's owned privately.
So,
Does that make sense?
So what I've heard is that the retaining wall is on private property to begin with.
Oh, boy.
So it's retaining the land of
Yeah.
that same lot.
So why is the town spending $400,000 of ARPA money on that?
Well, I suppose that's a good question. Why are they repairing a retaining wall that is owned by somebody else?
Right.
And who is that somebody else
There are a number
connected?
of retaining walls in town that needed repair. Louisburg Square is one of, as a matter of fact,
Right.
which would be well over, I think, $1 million when they had the estimate. Why isn't the town taking over that? And
That's
repairing-
one of the reasons why we were opposed to
Right.
buying Louisburg Square, the cost of repairing that.
Absolutely.
But Joe DeRocco wanted us to buy it, folks. He
So-
didn't care.
That really is a major concern. I know the whole thing is precarious as far as gaining access on Helen Drive if it collapses, if it fails.
Yeah.
So that's a major issue. But it's
Right.
on private property. It's a private structure.
Right, so they should be, I don't know who the owner of that property is. I've been told the name, but it doesn't ring any bells to me, and I don't even remember the name right now. But and I'm not doing this to hurt that person.
They may not even realize it. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, there's a retaining wall there. They may have, I don't know if they realize that it was on their property. It is their property.
It's their problem,
And
unfortunately.
yeah, they may have
I wouldn't want to
essentially
have that
sold the bill
problem.
of goods.
Oh, right.
But it is their problem, but the town shouldn't be paying for it, and I don't understand why we're willing to spend $400,000 on that, and regardless of where the money is coming. You know, Dave regurgitated during the last couple of forums so many times, lame excuses for Ann and Victor that is given about the deficit, talking about chapter
Inflation. It's
inflation and Chapter 70 money being reduced. What do you think was going to happen when they changed the formula? I said it before and I'll say it again. You might get a bump the first year with an adjustment, but I said eventually it's going to ferret out. You are not a town that is substantially below the poverty level. You're not a town that has a high
The floor is
minority
only
rate.
going down too, probably.
You're gonna.
I don't think it's going to go up.
It's not going to go up. It's going to keep
Smaller,
adjusting.
yep.
It's going to keep getting smaller and smaller. Neil Caffrey, by the way, has made a comment here. What about the possible voter fraud with the coming election? Two candidates, he mentions Martin and Plummer, employing people from out of state and town and to vote or whatever, as well as deceased family members. I think that might have been a joke, but it still was out there in social media and people are referring to it now. I mean, it's just not something that you should probably...
No, I mean, we're relying on the integrity of our town clerk and everybody there.
And what's this pictures of the proof? I don't know what you're talking about, Neil, with this pictures of proof on your advertising today's show. Okay, yeah. So we did talk about proving all of the money that's been flowing to the favored few by getting no bid. And when I say no bid, it's not that they're breaking the law and getting bids because it's under the bid law. What is that?
5,000?
Figure? No, I think it's 10.
No, it's 10.
It
used to be
might be a
5.
little bit higher.
It might be a little bit higher. It was 10 when I was on the board. It might be even more now. But I mean, we gave you a lot of information here today, folks, and it's been our pleasure to do so. We're going to catch a lot of hay over this, and I just hope that the town does the right thing on the next week with the voting. Imagine you got a week to vote. I don't understand all of that. I don't like that. I like same-day voting with paper ballots, to be honest with you. But we're going to be voting next Saturday, and I hope you do the right thing. I hope you pick the right candidate that in your mind will do the best for Dracut and stop this cronyism that's been going on for so many years. And to Joe DeRocco, all I can say is don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. Thank God you're gone.
I'll reiterate.
Right?
I'm glad that you're leaving.
Yeah, now we may do a couple of Facebook Lives this week leading up. We may just go on Facebook and not do a regular show, so watch for that during the week. We might put a session together where the three of us can talk about what might be going on leading up to the election. Do you have anything else to say?
No,
Gordy?
that's it.
I think I got everything in. I'm not sure if I did. And if I didn't, I'll post it online.
And no more coffee.
And I didn't have any coffee today. I have a cup of tea. It's just that my adrenaline goes when I get on this show because I'm so passionate about making sure that Dracut is treated right. Go ahead, Gordy.
Fans, we thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something today. Things are made more clear to you for who to vote for in the coming election on this coming Saturday and prior and for early voting. And we thank you for watching. And when it's Saturday and it's 11 a.m., it's What's Happening Dracut. Till next time, Dracut.
What's Happening Dracut is sponsored by BGI Group, LLC.